I think we'll get started. Can you all hear me okay? All right. So welcome to Health Equity Law and Law After Dobbs, Part 2 at GW. I'm Sonia Suter, the Kahn Family Research Professor and Director of the Health Law Initiative at the George Washington University. And we're thrilled to welcome many of you back in person and also online. And welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time today in person or online. If today is half as interesting and exciting as yesterday's panel presentations, then I think we're all in for a treat. So for those of you who were unable to attend yesterday, the focus of the symposium is on the Supreme Court's recent decision, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, which overturned Roe v. Wade and the constitutional right to abortion. Our goal was to bring together an interdisciplinary group of scholars, researchers, practitioners, and advocates to try to understand the deep impact of this decision, and also to bring us together in conversation with the hope that maybe there will be future collaborations as we think about how to move forward in these challenging times. As was evident from yesterday's panels, we have a really incredible lineup of speakers today with deep expertise in many different disciplines. And so I want to first begin by thanking the many speakers who have traveled, some of them quite far, to join us today and to take the time to speak with us either yesterday or today. I also want to thank the Planning Committee, Professor Maya Manian, Professor of Law and Faculty Director of the Health Law and Policy Program at American University, Washington College of Law, Professor Tracy Weeds, Professor of Sociology and Director of the Center on Health, Risk, and Society at American University, Asha Shelzo, Director of Health Law and Policy Program at Washington College of Law, Professor Sarah Rosenbaum, Professor Emerita of Health Law and Policy at the George Washington University Milken Institute School of Public Health, and Tori Nadel, the Program Coordinator for Washington College of Law's Health Law Program. It has been such a pleasure to work with all of you these many months. I'm also deeply grateful to the Kahn Health Law Fellows at GW, Chelsea Pardis, Kendall Hagman, Evelyn Pereira, Kelsey Kerr, Phoebe Fisher, and Tom Romanchek. You have worked so hard, not just on this program, but all of our other health law programming, and it's such a joy to work with all of you. You keep me in line and you make sure things run on time. I couldn't do it without you. And I also want to thank those of you who are joining us in person, either now or perhaps also in our overflow room, as well as those who are participating online. And finally, I want to give a hearty thank you to the deans from each of our schools who have supported the symposium. Linda Alduri, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at American University, Lynn Goldman, Michael and Lori Milken, Dean of the Milken Institute School of Public Health at the George Washington University, Roger Fairfax, Dean of the American University, Washington College of Law, and last but definitely not least, Dana Bowen Matthew, Dean of the George Washington University Law School. It is my great honor to introduce Dean Matthew today. And there is far more to tell you about her amazing career than I'm going to have time for this morning. So I'll just focus on a few key points. Having earned her JD and PhD in public health, she is a leader in public health and civil rights law. Her research focuses on disparities in health, healthcare, and the social determinants of health. She has authored countless articles in this area and recently authored 2 important books, Just Medicine, A Cure for Racial Inequality in American Healthcare, which is a best-selling book, and published last year, Just Health, Treating Structural Racism to Heal America. Dean Matthew is not just a renowned scholar, but she's also taken on many public policy roles, including co-founding the Colorado's Health Equity Project, co-founding UVA's Equity Center, and most recently, founding the Equity Institute here at George Washington University. And finally, she has been a visionary and inspiring leader of our law school. So without further ado, I give you Dean Matthew. Thank you so much.
Good morning, and thank you, Sonia. That was an incredibly generous introduction. I am feeling the energy of the room and the day that you had yesterday. I got a chance to talk to Dean Fairfax, who gave me a little bit of a tongue lashing for not being there, but I do want to explain that I am with you in spirit, not only with you in spirit, but doing the same work that you are doing. Many years ago, as Sonia's bio generously pointed out, I was a law professor at the University of Colorado, and while here for 14 years, I belonged to a group called Sister to Sister. It's important because tonight is a very big night for them. They're sponsoring a day-long program on maternal mortality health disparities. It's a Black women's organization, and we had been working on this issue for quite some time, and it would only be to do the same important work that I would miss being with you today. So please forgive me, but know that we are in spirit the same, doing the same work. My message to you this morning is very, very simple, and I want to share a photograph, if I may. I'm going to take advantage. The fact that I'm online and not there gives me the opportunity to share a photograph that, if you can see it, is one from the civil rights movement that I bet you have not seen. So if I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to enlarge this, and this is going to be the backdrop rather than my face of the few moments welcoming remarks that I'd like to give to you. So this is a very important moment in the civil rights movement, and yet this is a photograph you never, I would imagine, have seen. And if you've seen it, you hadn't focused on it. It was taken at the Holt Street Church in Montgomery, Alabama. And in a moment, the date will give away what's going on in this photograph. It was taken on December 4th, the day after Rosa Parks was bailed out of jail. And this is the first public gathering at which Martin Luther King spoke. He was unknown, uncelebrated, unrehearsed, and this would not have appeared to have been an important, groundbreaking meeting that would start a nation in movement towards its attempt to live out the promise of its creed. But it was. And if you look closely, the people in this photograph are not the ones you remember from the civil rights movement. They're not marching. They're not speaking in front of mics. They've come to this church at the invitation of a collaborative group of organizers. One, the Women's Council of Montgomery, Alabama. Another, the Montgomery Improvement Association. Another, just pastors in the neighborhood, and they're standing room only. This photograph puts me in mind very much of what you are doing today, what you have done in this conference to talk about what is next after Dobbs. It's an important gathering that's not on anybody's radar except for your 700 people enrolled and registered, and probably more are in attendance in a hybrid fashion. The organizers worked tirelessly, but in an uncelebrated way, to say this is a moment in history. And let me just recall for you the sentence that opened this meeting when Dr. King stood up. He entered the room, not expecting to speak. The pastor of the church, Holt Street Church, invited him to the podium, introduced him for the first time to the crowd, and by report, he started in a very halting and small voice and said, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for serious business. Well, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else as well, today you are here for serious business. It may not feel like something that is going to start a disruptive movement across the country, but neither did this. Why are you here? Well, you know the data. It's the same reason I'm here in Denver, Colorado, to talk about maternal mortality. Black women in the United States die 3.5 times more frequently in childbirth or 1 year after childbirth due to the sequela of their pregnancies than white women do in the United States. Here in Colorado, because I'm mindful of the data here, a Black woman is 2.5 times more likely to lose her child, despite the fact that she makes between $50,000 and $75,000 a year and has a college education. These data hold true with respect to white women who were educated to the 8th grade and living below the poverty line. Frederick Douglass called this a race problem. And today I want to remind you of the race problem, the health equity and disparities problem. That is one of the reasons that what you're doing so importantly today must consider racial, ethnic, sexual orientation, sexual expression, gender, not only the obvious inequalities, but the ones that are unseen also. So I congratulate you and thank you very much for including me in this welcome. We're so happy that this collaborative effort between and among 2 great law schools and a great School of Public Health have brought you to the George Washington University Law School today. It is a place where we believe change happens. We were founded in 1865, and everyone knows that I regard that as part of our DNA and our calling, because the only reason that someone would found a law school and open its doors just months after the Civil War closed was to bridge divides, to bring law to the solutions of the pressing issues of our time, to find ways forward when there are divisive, intractable, but absolutely necessary conversations to have. Thank you for inviting me into the room, even virtually. Thank you for coming to the George Washington University Law School. Thank you for the important work you will do today, and welcome.
I have the great pleasure of introducing Lynn Goldman, who's Dean of the Milken School of Public Health, and a very old and longtime friend who I've been honored to work with now in a public health capacity for almost 15 years. Dr. Lynn Goldman is the Michael and Laurie Milken Dean and Professor of Environmental and Occupational Health at the Milken Institute School of Public Health here at GW. She is renowned for her work in pediatric environmental health, which is how I first came to know her. Dean Goldman's virtually unending achievements and awards include her membership in the National Academy of Medicine, her receipt of the Heinz Award for her environmental health contributions worldwide. Most importantly, in the context of this conference, she has been tireless in her work on reproductive health and played an instrumental role in the Deans and Health Policy Scholars Supreme Court brief in Dobbs. Thank you, Dean Goldman.
Thank you so much for that introduction, but also thank you and all of those who are on the planning committee for this conference, for the effort that you put into this. Thanks to our institutions, American University, George Washington University, for joining together in partnership, bringing together 2 incredible law schools, but also our wonderful programs in health across both institutions. I think that this is an issue that, as Dean Matthews said, is a very important moment for all of us in terms of the pivot that we need to make and how we are approaching the issues around not only health on a gender basis, health when it comes to pregnancy and healthcare during pregnancy, but also the very fundamental issues that are facing us around personal privacy and the ability of the state to intrude in the most vulnerable areas of our lives, on the basis of factors like religious beliefs and other issues that, in my view, should have nothing to do with healthcare and medical decisions. We used to feel we could trust the Supreme Court to look after our privacy, and we don't feel that way anymore in health. Many of my colleagues across the country who practice medicine are walking a tightrope of state laws that they are going to very easily fall on the wrong side of in the interest of saving the lives of their patients. This is a very serious moment that they are facing out there. It is difficult for us in Washington, D.C. to understand just how tenuous things are across the country. We do research, we document this, we do the statistics, but I think it's important also to understand the stories that are behind this. I myself have had the experience as a pediatrician of taking care of a young woman, 15 years old, attempting suicide because of parental consent laws that said you need the consent of your family for an abortion. Even the former restrictions that were legal prior to Dobbs. Folks, you don't understand if you haven't taken care of individuals like this, what the impacts could be, because you've got a parent of that child who said, I was 15 when I had you, and my mother was 15 when she had me, and this is what we do. We don't have abortions in our family, and, nearly died of an overdose out of desperation at the idea that her future would be foreclosed by being forced to bear a pregnancy to term. And by the way, that family also, we don't adopt our children out. The idea that that is the solution, that is not a solution. That is another issue upon which a 15-year-old does not necessarily have control for her own lives. And so I think we're going to hear later about some of the implications of some of this. I'm looking forward myself to the discussion about the potential impacts on the FDA. Logically, in many of these states, with abortion being difficult to obtain or even illegal, even a crime for a healthcare professional to deliver an abortion, there's medication that can be prescribed. And now there are efforts underway to preclude the ability for people to access medications, to change FDA's authority to regulate these medications. I don't think that there's any limits to the extent to which people wish to push this. And honestly, again, just as a healthcare professional and a public health professional, I have no idea how far the courts will go to support some of these ideas. And that is, getting back to my first point, losing faith in what had seemed to be, a safety net that the courts had created in terms of protecting our individual rights, protecting our privacy. None of us feel that that is necessarily going to save us. And so that is why I have joined in, on briefs, such as a brief that was done before the Supreme Court on the Dobbs decision. And, I myself will continue to encourage members of my profession to be engaged. And it is why I think we are part of this effort. We're very pleased to see so many people from the legal profession coming together. And as going back to Dean Matthews' point, to remember that where these impacts are going to fall will disproportionately be on those who are most powerless, whether that is because they are very young women can become pregnant, whether it is because they are from minority groups that are even historically discriminated against in healthcare. Any additional barrier that you put before them is going to increase the impacts of discrimination. One more thing that has to be navigated. But also, let's think about other populations, people in rural communities where it's difficult to travel to another state, another jurisdiction where you might be able to receive your health care. And so this is something that I think, impacts all of us, but does not impact us equally. Impacts us in ways that are disproportionate, unfair, and will exacerbate the public health disparities that we already have in our country. But I want to thank you all again, and I'm looking forward to the conference. And again, best wishes to all of you as we, try to forge forward and find ways to navigate what has become an extremely complicated landscape with all of these state laws and all these efforts to attack our reproductive freedom. Thank you.